Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, the teachings of Tefillah May Shlita. Here we are continuing our learning, and we ask everybody to please continue davening for Chaylei Tzvah Gana Yisrael, for Shlem L'Chol B'Tzvah Yisrael, return of our remaining hostages, L'Kvuras Yisrael, 2 more that we still need to have come home, Mirza Hashem B'Karov, and we dedicate our learning each and every day, L'Ili Nishmat, Ser and Daniel Shimon Harav Darom V'Shel Shem Kam Demo. The next Perek, Ein Lasheves B'Toch Dalet Am Shalom Mispalel. And for those of you keeping score at home, and I know there are at least one of you, this is episode number 150, just in the Laws of Tefillah. Laws of Tefillah, episode 150, and we are actually nearing episode 600 overall. Hard to believe, 600, and I thank you for joining me on this journey. So let's get right to it. Because of the importance and the sanctity of the Shemoneh Esreh, so if someone is davening Shemoneh Esreh, standing and davening Shemoneh Esreh, Chazal prohibited anyone from sitting within 4 amos of someone saying Shemoneh Esreh. Why? Someone who's davening Shemoneh Esreh is standing in front of the divine presence itself. And if someone is just sitting there idly, it would appear as if he is not accepting the yoke of heaven. And you're actually denigrating the place, the space of tefillah. Let's say a person is davening. You're part of davening. Then you're allowed to sit like they're part of davening where we sit. Let's say somebody's saying Kriya Shema, and it's noticeable that someone's saying Kriya Shema davening, and you could sit next to someone who's saying Shemoneh Esreh. Because since it's quite apparent that he's in the middle of davening, it doesn't appear as if he's someone who is mivaza. He's not denigrating the space, and he's not rejecting the yoke of heaven, etc. He's obviously part of davening. Some say that even if someone is just sitting and learning Torah, you're allowed to sit next to someone davening Shemoneh Esreh. And in a time of great need, let's say a person cannot concentrate while standing, then a person can sit down. Let's say you were sitting and there was nobody davening Shemoneh Esreh, and then someone stood next to you or stood up and started saying Shemoneh Esreh. Even if you're just sitting there and you're not davening and you're not learning, you're allowed to continue sitting since you were there before the Shemoneh Esreh began. This is not considered a denigration of the tefillah, but the person who's davening did something incorrectly, because he started to daven while you were sitting. In other words, he came into your space, not that you went into his space. But if a person wants to be a mensch, what a person should do is either he should move away from someone davening Shemoneh Esreh, or at least to open a siddur and say Tehillim or learn something. Again, so we don't give that impression that we are rejecting the notion of what's taking place. Adam chalash, someone who is weak, even if he's not davening, so he could sit within someone, the 4 amos of someone who is davening. Everybody realizes that he's not sitting to be disrespectful. He's sitting because he's weak and he cannot stand. And there is no denigration of the honor of heaven. On Yom Kippur, when everybody's weak or considered weak because of the fast, certainly one is allowed to sit down next to someone who's davening Shemoneh Esreh because everyone is in that state of chulsha. There are some who are very strict, and they hold that you facing or directly opposite someone davening Shemoneh Esreh, it's forbidden to sit down, even if it's more than dalet amos, because when a person is bowing down, then it's like you're bowing down to that person, even if it's more than 4 amos, more than 6-10 feet away, whatever you're going to measure it at. Even if someone is saying Kriya Shema, and you sat there before someone started saying Shemoneh Esreh, Olav Lamod, he should really stand up. And he says it best to perhaps be conscious of this. So that's why it's also good to daven b'tzibur, where everybody's saying Shemoneh Esreh at the same time. How much is Arba Amos? So the Rav says here, Shir Arba Amos hu ke matar shmonim centimeter. This is a 80 centimeters. Amnam barur she'ein tzorach limdod es hamerchak me'espal b'centimetrim el tzorach kolem linu kfi ma she'ishar beinav. So we don't have to sit there with a ruler and measure them. Rather, we say it amma is a foot and a half. Again, we don't use centimeters here in this country. We're the only country that doesn't. But when we talk about dalet amos and amma is a foot and a half, we say for argument's sake that's the length from the tip of your finger to your elbow. So it's about a foot and a half. So 4, that's 6 feet. So I don't know how much 80 centimeters is. Honestly, I have no idea because we just don't use them. But it's matar u'shmonim centimeter. It's a meter and 80 centimeters. So that's a meter is probably about a yard, I think. Yes, that makes sense. So about 3 feet and 80 centimeters. So that's about, again, you do the math at home. You figure it out. But we know what dalet amos is. But the idea is that it's not exactly measurement, but you don't want to be in somebody's way. So when somebody's davening Shemoneh Esreh, you don't sit down next to that person. You don't walk in front of that person. We don't do that. We don't want to disturb anybody. And if you're already in your place and you're davening, then I don't think you have anything to be concerned about. So thank you for joining us. Please continue davening for Chayei Tzvagan Yisrael for Shlem Chol Petzui Yisrael. It's the turn of our hostages. Look for us, Yisrael. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you next time.